Good evening to the study. How are you? Hope you are doing well. I'm coming in about a minute early or a couple minutes early. And so, as usual, just want to give everybody a little bit of time to hop on. I'm really excited about today's message. But as you guys join in, let me know how you're doing. Let me know you're here. Definitely want to know that what I have to say today is resonating with you guys, so please interact with me. Oh man, what a week. I've had a busy week this week, and I feel so blessed for that. I had some work, some business work, pressure washing, so that was good, and things are going well at the brewery. In case you didn't know, I started working at a local brewery, and that's been kind of fun. I've enjoyed it a lot. Kathy, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I saw it was, is it today that's your anniversary? So I hope everything went well. Yeah, bartender. I am a bartender. All right, well, we are 1 minute after 7:30, so I think I should go ahead and start. So as you know, we are starting chapter 4 of Colossians. Wow. Took us a while to get there. Hi, Deidre. How are you? So I'm gonna read just a little portion of chapter 4, and then we're gonna go look at some couple passages one in Mark and in Matthew, both the same passage, just in different books. So, anyways, if you wanted to just kind of follow along, you can. So, yeah. All right. Well, let's get started. I wish I could see your faces, but anyways. Okay. So, masters, deal with your slave justly and fairly, since you know that you too have a master in heaven. Devote yourselves to prayer, stay alert in it with thanksgiving. At the same time, pray also for us, that God may open up doors to us for the word, to speak the mystery of Christ, for which I am in chains, so that I may make it known as I should. Act wisely towards outsiders, making the most of the time. Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you should answer each person. All right, so that's what I wanted to read, and if you read the title, then we're definitely going to focus on seasoned with salt. So, yeah, there's certainly many recordings, many different occasions where Jesus is recorded being a little salty. Cut off your right hand, pluck your eye out, calling religious leaders vipers, eat my body, and drink my blood. The first will be last, and the last will be first. You hypocrites, blind leading the blind, eating without washing your hands, violating the Sabbath, forgiving sin, sits and eats with tax collectors and prostitutes. Jesus was salty, no doubt. But let's take a look at one very specific moment that's recorded. As I said earlier, it's recorded both in Matthew and Mark. So Matthew chapter 15, verses 21 through 28. I'm going to go there now, and I'll read it to you. It's about the Gentile mother's faith. It might be titled that way in your translations. When Jesus left there, he withdrew to the area of Tyre and Sidon. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but anywho. Just then a Canaanite woman from that region came and kept crying out, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely tormented by a demon." Jesus did not say a word to her. His disciples approached him and urged him, "Send her away because she is crying out after us." He replied, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came, knelt before him, and said, "Lord, help me." He answered, "It isn't right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." "Yes, Lord," she said, "yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus replied to her, "Woman, your faith is great. Let it be done for you as you want." And from that moment, her daughter was healed. Okay, now let's read it in Mark. Mark chapter 7, verses 24 through 30. It goes like this. He got up and departed from there to the region of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know it, but he could not escape notice. Instead, immediately after hearing about him, a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Gentile. Let's see if I can butcher it. You guys can tell me later if I said this right. Syrophoenician by birth. And she was asking him to cast the demon out of her daughter. He said to her, "Let the children be fed first, because it isn't right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." But she replied to him, "Lord, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." Then he told her, "Because of this reply, you may go. The demon has left your daughter." When she went back to her home, she found her child lying on the bed, and the demon was gone. Okay. What's interesting is, so Matthew, when you read it, it almost seems as if though they were walking, outside, and they're walking, maybe like on the door, because she's nagging, from behind them. But Mark puts it happening in a house. But I want to paint a picture for you, and obviously, like, I can't prove it. I can't prove what they were doing inside the house or on the road when the woman approached them, but neither can it be disproven. So I'm going to take a little bit of liberty and just play with the scene just a little bit. But picture this, maybe it in the previous verses before it gets to the lady, they were around the oh gosh, what was the name of the sea there? Galilee. They were around that area, and I'm not sure how many miles it is from Galilee to Tyre or Sidon. I'm gonna guess maybe. I know that Israel is about 60 miles wide, so I'm gonna guess they probably were on the road for at least 30 miles, if I had to guess. At least, probably more. So after a long day, they're probably looking for some shelter and food. Maybe they were having dinner. I don't know. But they were most certainly tired and cranky and hungry. It says in Mark that Jesus actually wanted to go unnoticed. And that's something. He was tired. And he still got noticed. That'll be a teaching for another time, I think. There's definitely something there worth paying attention to, but that'll be for next time. So after a long day of being on your feet or sitting on maybe a wagon for a while with no suspension, I don't know, maybe the wooden wheel breaks somewhere along the road. Or maybe the burro dies, I don't know, and they gotta get another burro. It's rough being out there, But if any of you have worked long hours on your feet, usually when you get home, your feet are swollen and they're tired. They ache. Your back is tight. It hurts. You've been sweating all day from perhaps being under the hot sun. I don't know about you, but when I get home from a long day of work, I am ready for a shower. I am ready for food, some Advil, a cold beer, an ice pack on my back, and some sleep. I don't doubt for one bit that they probably felt the same. Jesus wanted to go unnoticed. And the disciples were obviously tired because somebody was nagging behind them. Jesus, do something about this because she's pestering us. But somehow the lady heard about Jesus. There's no real way of knowing, I don't think, how she came to the news about our Lord. Maybe she heard the response that he gave to the Pharisees when he was talking about what's it called? In chapter 7 about the traditions of the elders in Mark, and then in the previous chapter of Matthew. Maybe she heard about the healings of many, or the feeding of the 5,000 men plus women and children. Nevertheless, the news must have traveled faster than Jesus and the disciples could travel. That's how fast it moved. Had to have. I don't know how else. If you know better, please tell me. Either way, the lady is a Greek Gentile. And there's a pretty good chance that this lady worshipped many gods. Probably the ones that correlated with the stars and the planets. Zeus, Venus, Jupiter, and however many more there are in their culture. It would have been a common practice for her to worship all these different gods. It's very common. And I don't know. I don't know what was going through her mind when she was there, but I'm going to take a guess that perhaps she probably thought Jesus was just another God. Not the God, but just a God. I don't know if I'm right on this, but isn't it true that Hercules was a half human, half God? So in her theology, if that's true, that theology would be to no surprise that Jesus in the flesh was some sort of God. Especially after hearing all the stories, the news of what's been going on when he speaks and when he touches people and when people touch the hem of his garment. But nonetheless, this woman was unrepented. She had the wrong theology. And it could be likely that the ultimate God in her mind could have been Zeus. I mean, why wouldn't she think so, right? This lady was the definition of a loser to the Jews, to the disciples. She was not fit to be among their Messiah. Right? So what did they do? What did they do? The disciples approached him and urged him, send her away. In other words, send this loser woman away. She's bothering us. We're tired. It's a long day. I'm hungry and I'm dirty. My feet stink and they're swollen. I gotta use the restroom. Give me some peace of mind. Let me be. And do you know that that he doesn't say a word to her? Not a single word at that moment. Instead, he replies to the disciples and he says, I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. Now it's true, yes, he came here to the Jews first and then to the rest of the world. He had some prophecies that he had to fulfill. Nothing wrong with that. But I'm going to throw this out there to you and you can do with it whatever you want. If you, I don't know, I mean, surely you probably have owned dogs. You probably have had a pet dog in your family. But did you know that a dog who knows its master, a dog does know its master, right? Aubrey tells me all the time, Maple is your dog. She does not listen to me. She listens to you. I'm sure you probably have noticed something similar. If you have dogs, you probably have noticed something like that, where you have a family and a dog, and that dog minds its master. That dog knows its master. And if it knows its master, that dog is not lost. That dog knows where it belongs. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't know. You do whatever you want with that. But that dog is not lost. So let's ask the question. Who are the masters of the kingdom of God? You already know this answer. I know you know it. Do you remember when Jesus was among children and the disciples were, hey, get out of here. Go. Shoo. Pesty little kids, get out of here. And what did Jesus say? He said, do you guys remember? I'm just going to kind of paraphrase. I mean, he essentially told them that, hey, if you keep these little children away from me, or if you were to scandalize them, you'd be better off with a millstone tied around your neck and dumped into the bottom of the ocean. So who are the masters of the kingdom of God? The little children. The very pupil, right, that the disciples wanted to keep away from him. Stop bothering the Messiah. He's not here to deal with you, dumb little kids. Go play somewhere else. He doesn't have time for that. You get the drift? They would have been considered kind of like the losers of the society. Now, in this parable, which I do believe it was acted out, I don't think it was just a story, I think it was acted out, but nonetheless it is a parable. That doesn't mean it didn't happen, okay? That it just means that everything that Jesus did is quite parabolic. But yeah, in this case, in this parable, the children are indeed the children of Israel. The problem is that they didn't see themselves as losers, but rather as winning adults who thought they were on the winning side and everybody else was on the losing side. So let me ask you something. Are you better than the Mormons? Are you better than the Jehovah's Witnesses? Are you better than the beggar? Are you better than the Pharisees? Are you better than the rich? Are you better than the people of India who worship hundreds of gods? It's a little salty today, guys. It's a little salty. Are you better than the Catholic, the Baptist, the Charismatic, the Methodist? Are you better than the prisoner, the drug dealer, the molester, the addict, the sex trafficker? Are you better than Pelosi? Are you better than Biden or Trump? Depending on what side of the aisle you're on. Should I keep going? If you're trying to read this book through a political lens, you've already missed it. He doesn't fit any political agenda. Doesn't fit any religious agenda either. Everybody thought he was coming to overthrow the Roman Empire. Nope. Okay, so then Jesus says, it would be improper of me to give the children's bread to the dogs. First off, that word dog there is actually puppy or house pet. So it's not the crude word that many of us have associated with. As a matter of fact, there's been, I remember hearing preachers who understood and preached this statement here to be something of like a racist or derogatory, or even or that he was crude to this Gentile woman. I don't believe that at all. I just don't. Today, you know, we do use the word dog in many different ways. Not just in a derogatory way, but for example, I don't know if you have grandkids. I know growing up we used to greet our friends saying, "What's up, dog?" You guys remember that? Or you know, we would say, you know, sometimes you could say like, I'm just dog tired. You know, I worked like a dog. Or she's top dog if she's a business lady. Or she has puppy dog eyes. You lucky dog. My point in what I'm trying to say is that this phrase, it would be improper of me to give the children's bread to the dogs. May have not been a condescending thing to say. Maybe not. It was at time probably used in that way, but that doesn't mean that Jesus used it in such a crude way. I think that it was a lesson to the disciples. Here's why. Because before we get to this story of the Gentile woman, there is the story about the tradition of the elders. And he tells all of the listeners, he says, hey, listen to me and understand that whatever enters the mouth does not defile a man. Do you know that he essentially sanctified all foods? And he sanctified dirty hands, eating with dirty hands. What a scandal. What a scandal. I'm pretty sure that the disciples heard his response to the lady. I'm also quite certain that they heard her response to Jesus. And nevertheless, he still accomplished a remote exorcism despite the proper order of things. Meaning that he came here for the lost sheep of Israel, first and foremost. So despite the proper order of things, he still did it. Which I think is the big point here, is the main point, is that he still did it. So in my own words, essentially, he is telling his disciples, if you will, although I am here for you first, you will have to learn to be last if you want any part of me and what I am up to. This mother knew she was a loser. And she knew she had no business bothering the king. So did the disciples. But Jesus did not see a loser. He saw a winner, a little child. Losers will be winners. And winners will be losers. The first will be last. And the last will be first. This woman, because of her faith, because it was, and I know it doesn't say this, but the only way that you know who Jesus is if the Father reveals him first. All right, that's it. Thank you guys for chiming in. I'm going to wrap this up, and I will see you guys in the Hangout session.